I 100%ed Cult of the Lamb. To achieve 100%, our cozy cult members will be bribed, beaten, wed in holy matrimony, fall in love and have babies, dance around the campfire in sin, overindulge, get high, eat one another, sacrificed, ascend to the gods, resurrected, and do it all over again. Hello everybody, this is GamerGar. Welcome to a Cult of the Lamb completionist video. For this video, we are not just going to play the base game, we are also going to complete all of the DLC achievements. What we see here is all of the DLCs currently installed in the game. As far as I am aware, that is all of the DLCs that you can get. So we're now going to jump into a new save. Let's have some fun. Before we start our wacky adventure, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. I would love to become a full-time YouTuber. You can make that happen if you just give that button a tickle. I'd greatly appreciate it. It is a dark day indeed for our helpless little lamb. The last of its kind. Once the sacrifice has been completed, we are warped to the afterlife where we get to meet the one who waits. And this powerful entity is going to bestow upon us a red crown. And this crown is going to give us immense power. The power to forge a cult in our name. The power to fight back against the 4 bishops that have sent us to our doom. If we are to 100% this game, we are going to have to perform every ritual, build every structure, collect every outfit, tarot card, relic, and every follower form. There's quite a lot of collectibles in this game, but not to worry, we eventually get through it in almost one piece. Cult of the Lamb is a mixture between a dungeon crawler and a cozy farming simulator, and it does blend those elements in quite well. What you see right now is our cozy little lamb going through what we call a crusade, which is basically a dungeon, wiping out enemies that stand in our path to greatness. We come across our very first follower here, and we will always get the option to rescue these followers. Later, we can then convert them over to cult members, and the more cult members we can amass, the more power we will obtain. Our very first cozy cult member, we will call it Bugaboo, our very own Discord moderator. Bugaboo comes with a very rare and valuable trait known as the Royal Pooper. Bugaboo will create golden poops for us to clean up, but the trade-off is that every time we clean up a golden poop, we will get lots of gold in the process. So hopefully Bugaboo will make lots of poops for us on our cozy farm. We're now going to build a kitchen, and this is needed to feed our followers. If our followers get too hungry, they may not believe in our faith anymore and they could leave. They could even spread dissent amongst other cult members, and that can create quite a fiasco for us. We are now going to enter the first dungeon this game has to offer, and this is called Darkwood. There are 4 dungeons in this game altogether. Each dungeon is comprised of several mini-bosses, followed by a main boss, which is a bishop, and there's 4 bishops in the game that we have to destroy. There's also one big baddie bishop in the end, but we'll get back to that later. Every time we go into a room, it can be a room that can give resources, it could be a room, for example, where we could rescue a follower, or it could be a room with just tons and tons of enemies for us to destroy. We're not totally helpless though. We can normally pick between 1 or 2 rooms every time we go into the next gauntlet. After traversing through several rooms, we will meet the first mini-boss here, Enthusiast. And this mini-boss is simple enough. He just fires out some projectiles, charges here and there. It's just a simple dodge and whack until we are victorious. Once that mini-boss has been slain, a follower does pop out, which we can recruit to our cozy cult. We also get to choose one of 3 rewards. Normally I will select a collectible here over resources or food, because the more collectibles we get, the sooner we can reach 100% completion on this game. And as you can see, there are a lot of recipes, especially building recipes such as pats and decorations that we need to get in this game to fully achieve 100%. As we can see there, we get bonus resources because we took no damage from fighting the boss. Every time we indoctrinate someone into our cult, they come with randomized traits. Sometimes it can be all positive traits, sometimes all negative, sometimes a mixture. Later on, we can, in ways, control that, and we can breed cult members into our lovely cult, and we can choose what traits they want, depending on who their parents are. All of our lovely cult members will be named after our channel members. So far, we've got Bugaboo, we've got Natasha B, and Enyanya. As we can see, I just learned the recipe there to build a temple. And the temple is very important when it comes to making the red crown on our head a lot more powerful. The more powerful the red crown, the more powerful our weapons and spell abilities become. Every day we can hold a sermon, the more cult members we have, the more divine aspiration we get. That means we can unlock even more powerful weapons and spells. It's also very important that we amass tons of cult members so we can get devotion outside, and devotion is needed to unlock more structural recipes and decorations. We went back to Darkwood here. We met a very important NPC by the name of Ratau. He has taught us a regular spell ability here. Now this is just the first spell of the game. There's tons of different types of spells we can get, and in order to use a spell, we use a resource called Fervor, and if that runs out, it just means we can't use spells anymore. We're now going to fight the second mini-boss here, and there's 3 mini-bosses in total before we can fight the first big bad main boss, and his name is Leshy. The second mini-boss here is simple enough. It fires out a couple of projectiles. You can't hit the boss when it's jumping around the place, but it's just like the first boss. We just have to dodge a few attacks, whack it a few times with our axe, and away we go. We can now convert another mini-boss into our cult. We also get some rewards here too. As per usual, we're going to go with the blueprint, and this is just another path blueprint. We now have Sarcasm and Elizabeth Lynch. Welcome to our lovely cozy cult. So we now have a couple of cult members. That means we need to put down some beds so our cult members can sleep in peace. And it's very important that our cult members remain in good spirits. That means they'll work for us 100% of the time and they won't complain. We just got our first golden poop there from Bugaboo. Thanks a million. Back into the temple here now, and we're going to have a sermon. And a sermon is something that I do almost every single day, just so I can very quickly and efficiently upgrade my weapons and get them into stronger tiers. We also can upgrade our crown as well, and there's a lot of options now from the DLC that we can select that we couldn't select from the base game. One is the goat, so instead of looking like a lamb, I can now look like a goat. Unfortunately, if I want to equip any sort of powered up fleece down the road, the goat form does get taken away, which is unfortunate. Because I want to 100% this game, I'm not spending a whole lot of time just dallying around my farm, trying to get as much upgrades as possible before I go back into the dungeons. I'm prioritising dungeons right now because we're going to have to do hundreds and hundreds of dungeon runs to get full completion on this game. So the sooner we can get into these dungeons, the sooner we can complete the main story, the better for us. So we just completed the third mini-boss there, and we're going to bring Fluffy Fish into our lovely cozy cult. If we go back into Darkwood now, we can take on the first bishop. But before that, we're going to make some farm plots so we can start feeding our followers some food on a regular basis, because our followers will get very hungry if we don't feed them after a couple of days. So I'm going to put down some farm plots here. I am limited in terms of resources right now, so I don't have a whole lot of wood or gold or stone, but there are structures we can make later on that will make those resources trivial. Bugaboo asks me to create a name for my cult. I call it the Gamergar Stars. We are now going to have our first ritual, and this is the bonfire ritual. And this ritual is absolutely magnificent when it comes to increasing faith. If our cult members aren't too happy with how we're running the cult, the faith will go down. If faith reaches certain levels, we will start to lose cult members. So it's a very important stat that we need to try to keep up all the time. And because faith can go down periodically, we can't just farm dungeon after dungeon. We have to do some work on the farm as well and make sure that all our cultists are happy. So I got some commandment stones, and we can use these to unlock powerful rituals and also powerful passive abilities for our cult members. There's 5 areas we can go into. So we've got possessions, law and order, subsistence, work and worship. Now what we're going to go into for the first one is sustenance, because you get some really nice stuff here. The first one I'm going to go for is the feasting ritual. You can select one of 2 perks each time. The feasting ritual is very handy because we gain 25 faith, but also it fills up our hunger meter. So that's a really handy one to do if you're spamming dungeons and the hunger gauge is down really low. I also picked up a follower farm, and I'm taking on Ratau here in a game of Knucklebones. This is basically one of the main minigames of Cult of the Lamb. And once victorious, we will get some nice collectibles. Later on, we will find more NPCs we can play Knucklebones with, and if we beat them at Knucklebones, they will give us tarot cards and other really cool stuff. Back on the lovely cozy farm, we now have enough divine inspiration to upgrade our cult to level 2, and every time we upgrade the cult we will gain access to more powerful structures. Eventually, we will be able to make structures that will automate a lot of the processes on our cult, such as getting cultists to farm, fertilise and water crops without us needing to be on the farm that much. I went back into Darkwood today and I noticed an NPC here he's called Helab, and he occasionally sells cultists at a discounted rate. Sometimes you have to pay the full price, sometimes you have to pay nothing. I also encountered the Fisherman. The Fisherman is an NPC that will now show us the location of a new zone that we can explore. Lots of collectibles and quests that we need to do in that zone as well in order to achieve 100%. I also came across a room here as well and I had to sacrifice a red heart. In return, I got some extra blue hearts, which was nice. Because we now had all 3 mini-bosses dead, we can now open up the boss room and challenge the first bishop of this challenge run, and that is Leshy. Now Leshy is probably the easiest of the 4 bishops, I suppose him being the first. Leshy's got some abilities that we have to watch out for. It does occasionally burrow into the ground, so we have to watch out for the spikes that come up out of the ground. Leshy can also fire projectiles at us as well, and Leshy also summons ads that we have to beat down as quickly as possible. We don't have to beat down the ads, but if we ignore them, we might get overwhelmed. And at this moment in time, we don't have the best weapons or spells in the game, so we gotta play it safe. Once Leshy is defeated, we get a key item here known as the Heart of the Heretic, and there's 4 of these hearts you can get in total, and every time we get one, we can unlock a cool ability. We also unlock the first big chain there to free the one who waits. We also get some commandment stones and we get a Leshy trophy. Some of these structures can only be built one. The Leshy trophy is an example, but it does make for a great aesthetic to be put on the cozy farm. We also get some follower farms as well. Follower farms are limited to certain locations. For example, there's 4 main dungeons in the game. Each dungeon has their own collection of follower farms. So if we want to get all of the follower farms, we will have to go back in and farm those dungeons a few times over to get all the collectibles. It's also worth noting too that if I see a big bunch of cultists like this, I will try to inspire them, I will try to impress them to increase their loyalty levels. So we're now going to bring Glitter Sparks and the awkward Brib into our cozy farm. Welcome channel members. Cult members can reach a loyalty level of 10. When that happens, we can turn them into disciples. There is an achievement in this game to acquire 12 disciples, so the grind is on. We do get more devotion, which is great. That means more weapon upgrades for us. And the more commandment stones we get, the more we can power up our lovely passive and ritual abilities. We're going to take the Grass Eater trait here. This means every time we make a grassy gruel meal, it won't have any negative effects on our followers. It just makes it a lot easier to keep our followers fed. We're also going to get our first Heart of the Heretic power, and this power is going to be the ability to start every crusade with 1 diseased heart, and it's a very handy item. It means if we take damage, that diseased heart will damage all enemies in the room. So we're just doing a little bit of farming here. I'm also going to make a farmer station. This means cultists will now water the crops for me. I don't have to water the crops myself, thank God. I'm now going to pay a visit to Pilgrim's Passage. And there's lots of cool stuff to be had here, including follower farms. Now these follower farms can be gotten from Darkwood, but I want to speed up progress, so I'm just going to buy 1 or 2 from the follower shrine there. We're now going to visit the lighthouse, which is one of the key areas of the Pilgrim's Passage. The lighthouse keeper was having difficulty lighting the fire, and all of the ships were crashing on the shores. I just thrown a couple of pieces of wood into the fire there, and the lighthouse keeper was very happy indeed. And we will get lots of funny quests like this as we progress the game, and that little statue there does refill over time, so it's handy to come back here every couple of days and get that valuable devotion. I'm also going to purchase some tarot cards here as well, just to speed up progression. So we've got Nature's Boon, we've got the All-Seeing Sun, and we've got some other bits and bobs as well, like Retribution. And once we unlock these cards, they do turn up inside of the dungeons. There's also some really cool aesthetics we can buy here as well. We will need to unlock all of these if we are to 100% the game, so it's better to just buy them now rather than try to find them later. There's also this red demon that we can encounter, but we can only encounter this demon during the nighttime at certain locations. The first time we encounter this demon, we just have to give it 1 fish, and as a reward we get what's called a fleece token. Once you obtain 4 of these tokens, we can unlock a fleece, and every fleece is basically like a double-edged sword. It gives us a positive ability as well as a negative ability. We also do some fishing here as well, just get the Neptune's Curse there, which is really nice. We can get more fleece tokens off of the fisherman if we give the fisherman some very specific fish. He's looking for 4 rare fish in total, but there are ways that we can expedite that. For now, we're going to spend the whole day just doing tons of fishing. I managed to fish up a squid, and that's one of the 4 rare fish needed in order to get all of the fleece tokens. So that's 1 more fleece token in the bag for us. Today means we can unlock another ritual provided we have a commandment stone. Ritual of the Ocean's Bounty is an amazing ritual to unlock. Once this is performed for 2 days, it makes special fish more likely to appear. This makes it super simple to get all of the rare fish the fisherman needs so we can grab all those lovely fleece tokens. Once the ritual has been performed, as we can see, there's tons of fish now that we can pick up. We're also getting a lot more fish every time we get a bite, so we can now donate those 3 other fish to the fisherman and get those 3 remaining fleece tokens. And that is another side quest in the bag. Whoever laid this giant poop, fair play to you, but also please get yourself checked out. More devotion means more weapon upgrades for us, but also we get to unlock our first fleece, and we're going to go with the golden fleece. This fleece is absolutely amazing. Every time we slay an enemy with this fleece, we will do increased damage, but if we take a single hit, that damage multiplier will get negated and we will also take double damage. So that is the double-edged sword of the golden fleece. It didn't take too long for our fabulous cult members to play some awful shenanigans on each other. Our good cozy cult member there, Sarcasm, wants us to give Glittersparks a bowl of poop. If I decline this request, it loses me a lot of faith, so I couldn't really afford to do that. So apologies Glittersparks, but I didn't really have a choice at this moment in time. I made some bowls of poop, but I didn't even have to tell Glittersparks to eat it. She just automatically came up and she ate the bowl of poop without me even giving the command, which was absolutely amazing. Just goes to show the loyalty of my fabulous channel members. I was impressed by the loyalty shown to me today, hence it was time to treat all of my fabulous cultists to a nice meal. Not only will this fill up the hunger bar, it's also a great fate gainer. Because Darkwood had now been completed, Leshy had been slain, we can now enter the second big dungeon of the game, which is called Anura. But before we delved into the depths of Anura, we decided to go back into Darkwood, because now that Leshy has been defeated, new enemies have emerged and the existing enemies are also a bit more powerful. Not only that, but there's even more collectibles we can get in here, including a valuable Eye of the Witness. And there's 4 of these eyes we have to get in total, and these eyes will be traded into an NPC in the near future to get even more fleece tokens. So that was the first Eye of the Witness there, and if we want to get more, we will have to clear out the rest of the main dungeons. So that was the first of 4 eyes that we need. Also, once we have a main dungeon completed, when we have the current crusade done with, we can decide to do another run to get even more valuables instead of going back to our cozy farm. And I did just that, and I fought another mini-boss. Now this boss had been fought before, but I just wanted to do a second chain run so I can get more valuable resources. I needed a lot of wood, a lot of stone, a lot of gold, so I can make a lot of farming structures. I also picked up some nice recipes as well that I need for 100% completion, so the more of these recipes that we get, the better. I also came across an NPC here by the name of Manch. Now, unfortunately for me at the time, I didn't know if I pressed the action button just behind the bonfire there, I would get a very rare piece of lore, and that does come back to hunt us at the end of the challenge, because this room apparently is incredibly rare to come across. And I can tell you right now, that is correct. It took me almost 20 hours to find that room post-game, so I could get the missed piece of lore, just to let you know. So the one who waits was very happy with my progress, and I was taught a ritual here called Sacrifice of the Flesh. Just means I can sacrifice a follower. It was now time to indoctrinate some more cozy cult members. Mania Ilyana, Vice City, Valiant Chicken, and Ashley Harris, all welcome to the cozy cult. More members means more devotion for me, and because I can do a sermon every single day, and because I had so many members, I was getting at least 1 level up per day, which means I can get at least 1 level up in my weapons or spells every single day. I now had almost the next tier of weapons unlocked, which was great. It was time for another powerful relic trait. Gonna go with Substances and Courage trait. All cult members will gain the Substance and Courage trait. That means they'll gain Fate if they become high. Now, our lovely, once loyal Discord moderator Bugaboo decided to dissent against us, and she was spreading really bad rumours about me around the cult, so I decided it was best to sacrifice her to the greater gods. But not to worry, we can resurrect you later on, and I'm sure when you do get resurrected, you'll be on your best behaviour. But for now, say hello to the great beyond, on behalf of the Gamergar Stars. Ah, Fluffy Fish, one of my most loyal followers, I bestow to you a skull necklace. This will double Fluffy Fish's life expectancy, so Fluffy Fish will live twice as long as a regular member. It was also time to indoctrinate Bonkers Busy into our lovely cozy cult. Welcome. It was finally time to explore the next big dungeon, Anura. Upon entering, I got a gauntlet type weapon. Now this has to be one of my least favourite weapons in the game. The gauntlets and the hammer I despise because the gauntlets they're just too weak and the hammer is just way too slow. But that's what we got, so we're just going to have to deal with it. Upon going through Anura, we come across our first mini-boss. His name is Gusian. And Gusian is very similar to the enemies we fought in Anura. He just jumps all over the place. We have to avoid his ground slam. He will spawn some eggs. Enemies will hatch from those eggs, so it's just about ad control as well. If we can destroy those eggs before they hatch, we won't have to worry about the enemies. Once Gusian has been defeated, another follower can join our flock. We will call that follower Natasha Smith. We're also going to call our another follower Pantox, which is another Gamergar member. So welcome to the tribe. It's now time to go into the next discipline, which is Afterlife. We've got 2 choices. We're going to go with Belief in Afterlife trait. This means instead of cult members losing 20 faith when a follower dies, they only lose 5. This is very important because I can tell you right now, there's going to be lots of follower deaths in this video, so prepare yourself. I also acquired a new follower form for catching those little red balls at night time. That was a nice surprise. I'm also focusing on trying to increase loyalty levels of all of these followers as quickly as possible, so we are going to need lots of disciples. I also made a Healy Bay, so I can heal up my followers if they become ill, and that comes in really handy. I came across this new NPC here when I was venturing through Anura, and this NPC is going to tell me all about the Spore Grotto, and it's also going to tell me about collecting mushrooms that we can give to this NPC later on, so we can get some really nice collectibles and powerful rewards. The Spore Grotto is home to a hilarious NPC known as Sozo, and that NPC has probably one of the funniest quest chains in the game. I also came across a new NPC here by the name of Chimak, and Chimak is basically the relic giver. So anytime we find this room in the future, we can obtain a powerful relic, and most relics are one-off use items, and they have various effects such as summon demons to help us in battle, fire down a bolt of lightning to strike an enemy, shoot lots of projectiles that do damage based on how many followers we have. So a lot of these relics, they come with conditions, and the stronger that condition is, the more damage it will do. And there's lots of relics to be collected in the game. One of the achievements is to collect all of the relics, and it's quite a grind to get that done, but we will get there in the end. A lot of the enemies in Anura can spew out projectiles, so we gotta be very careful. We are using the Golden Fleece, and it is very important that we try to accumulate as much damage output as possible. If we can get our damage normally to about 150-200%, we can normally pack in the mini-boss in just a few swings, so it's really nice when that happens. Speaking of the mini-boss, Eligus is the next boss we have to fight here, and this is just a bigger version of the regular bird-type enemies we fight in this dungeon. Eligas will spawn multiple enemies that we can choose to ignore. However, it's in our best interest to wipe those enemies out as quickly as we can because they just keep following us around. Eligas will also summon waves of projectiles that are fairly easy to dodge as well. We can just roll through them. Another follower added to the cult there, which was nice, and we have more commandment stones, which means we can unlock more rituals. One ritual here is called the Ritual of Resurrection, and as per the title, we can resurrect followers that were sacrificed or killed or died of old age. So we're going to get Bugaboo right back into our cozy cult, and hopefully this time Bugaboo will be a little bit more forgiving, and she won't be dissenting all the time, causing hassle. I'm now collecting flowers here known as camellias. These are needed to heal up our cultists if they become ill. So we are going to need hundreds and hundreds of those if we want to get 100%. Natasha Smith here gave us a quest. She heard a rumour that Manya Ilyana was a spy. She asked us to investigate. I spoke with Manya Ilyana and I didn't get any sort of bad vibes. So I think Natasha was just being a little bit overprotective there. So I'm now getting more divine inspiration here, and with that inspiration comes new structures that we can unlock. The propaganda speakers are really handy. If our cultists work within those speakers' range, they will work much faster. I also managed to find a skull here from catching some spiders at night time. I put the skull inside a burial pit here, and what popped out was a total surprise. An actual new cultist by the name of Weber. I also got a congratulations screen here, saying that I've unlocked penitence mode, and I got an absolute ton of special event recipes that I can make and put down on my farm. So it was really cool to get 7 recipes there in total. So I paid a visit to the Spore Grotto, and just like the Pilgrim's Passage, you had a vendor here that sold tarot cards. It was 4 tarot cards in total. So we picked up the Blazing Trail. We also got the Path. After that, I had enough money to get the Weeping Moon, and I also purchased the last tarot card as well, King of Turua. Once those 4 tarot cards were purchased, I had a look at the other wares that our lovely mushroom friends had. I also had a chat with the main NPC here. This NPC's name is Sozo, and all Sozo cares about is mushrooms. The more mushrooms we give Sozo, the more rewards we get in return. After giving Sozo the first batch of mushrooms, he is going to give us a valuable fleece token. But we do get way better rewards off Sozo as the game goes on and his mushroom requirement goes up. We also found the red demon here as well, and this time the red demon didn't want a fish. Oh no, it wanted a follower. I just sacrificed one of my non-member followers. And there is no way around this. We need to sacrifice followers to the red demon or we won't get 100% completion. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things that we have to do. But the rewards are worth it. We get another fleece token, which is really nice. And now, because we have even more commandment stones, we're going to take another trade. Respect your elders trade. Our followers will get +5 faith every time there's an elderly follower in the cult. And we do end up with quite a lot of elderly followers. We're now going to fight another mini-boss here in Anura, so we are getting close to the next big bishop fight. And this boss is very similar to the first. It just jumps around the place, spawns some ads, it throws some bombs at us. It's no big deal really. We only have a 15% damage on the golden fleece, but we didn't struggle at all and it was an easy enough fight. We now have enough aspiration to get our cult up to level 3. This is going to unlock some more advanced structures for us, but the best structures are when we get cult level 4. That's when the real fun begins in this game. There's some wacky structures you can get. Another day means another commandment stone. We're going to go with return to the earth trait here. This means that every time a follower dies, we can put them into a box and turn them into fertilizer. It's really handy to have, and this counts for any sort of follower death. So if we murder a follower, if a follower dies of old age, if a follower dies of illness, we can just pop him into the fertilizer pot. It's fierce handy. I'm also going to visit Pilgrim's Passage again, and I'm going to pick up all of these recipes just to speed up progression. If I have the money, why not? Because gold is very easy to obtain, and we can even sell items that we don't use too much on the farm to get even more money. I picked up a new relic today behind the lighthouse. It's called Chonek's Shoe, and this is one of the many relics we will need to collect to get 100%. That is relic 17 out of 57, so there's a lot of stuff to collect in this game. I did some fishing today as well, and I managed to fish up a new relic, the Beak of the Fowler. It was very nice to get that. I wasn't expecting it. I did go into this DLC without any knowledge, and it just made the playthrough for me a lot more entertaining. So I got a very potent trait there called Cheaper Rituals, and if I get one more level up, I can get a ritual cooldown reduction as well, and that's a game changer. We're now going to go into Law and Order. We're going to get the Ascend Follower Ritual. This is just another way to get rid of followers that we don't want. But the big bonus here is that when you get rid of those followers, depending on their level, you get a huge loyalty bonus to all of the followers that are in Sermon. We're now going to resurrect Elizabeth. Death is not the end for the Gamer Guard channel members. We also get a power up here too for weapons, so we're now going to get merciless weapons, and they're one of the strongest weapon types in the game, but we can get stronger. We haven't reached the peak of the upgrade tree just yet. We also come across an NPC here called Flinky inside Anura, and Flinky is going to be a Knuckles Bone player that we can take on over in Ratau's Lonely Shack. I also found a room here too with a cat, and this cat had lovely recipes for us to pick up. The first one was ambrosia. That's going to give us an increased damage to curse. A lot of the enemies in Anura tend to jump around the place and fly around, so we have to be very careful we don't accumulate damage, or damage multiplier on the golden fleece will go back to 0. But we did have enough mini bosses killed, so we can now fight the main bishop of this dungeon. That bishop is called Hecat, and Hecat is quite similar to the enemies that we fought in this dungeon. He primarily just jumps around the place and fires some bombs at us. He might summon some ads. That's really it. To be fair though, most of the bosses we fight the first time round are fairly simple. Eventually, we will have to go back in and fight the hardened versions of these enemies, and some of them do pack quite a punch. Now, I did take some damage. The damage multiplier on my golden fleece at this time was only 15%, but because I had my weapons upgraded so much, it didn't really matter. Every time I landed a hit, it did substantial damage. Eventually, Hecat went down no problem at all, and that was another Heart of the Heretic in the bag. So that's 2 bishops down, 2 bishops to go to complete the main portion of this game. That will not be the last of Hecat. We will see Hecat again in a few different forms. We'll also see Hecat again in a much tougher form. Hecat will have a lot more HP, and Hecat will also have some different attack patterns as well. As we can see, our cozy cult is growing quite large, and we have most of our GamerGuard channel members joining there too, which is really nice to see. I just shut off the heart there, and it was time to unlock the wedding ritual. And it is what it says. We can have weddings in this game. We can get married to as many cultists as we want. We will have to have a couple of weddings in order to unlock all of the tarot cards and other collectibles. There are a lot of rituals in this game that you have to perform a handful of times to get certain collectibles. So I just got the Lovers 2 tarot card there, and that gives +2 blue hearts. So that is now unlocked. I also visited Sozo again today, and I'm going to give him some more mushrooms. Now this time Sozo is going to give me a very powerful ritual. It's probably one of the best rituals in the game. It's called the Brainwashing Ritual. And this locks all your cultists into full faith for 2 days, and there is absolutely nothing you can do to bring that faith level down. So if you're looking to murder cultists, sacrifice cultists, or do any sort of activity that might lower the faith of your cultists, just brainwash them first and everything will be okay for you. It was now time to unlock the next big dungeon of the game. This is known as Anchor Deep, and this is an underwater style dungeon, and it's home to some new monsters, new secret activities, and it's also home to a new big bishop boss. But first we have to fight the mini bosses. The first one is called Celios. Celios is very similar to the smaller enemies we fought in Anura, with a few secret abilities, especially spawning the ads, but we beat down Celios no problem at all, and that is another follower added to the cozy cult for us. Once we leave the dungeon, we get a new trait here called Belief, an absolution trait. It just means we get a faith bonus every day none of our members are in prison, and it's quite rare when we put members in prison. Normally I just sacrifice them or ascend them or murder them in their sleep. We also found an NPC named Clunko and Bop, and he is another Knucklebones player that we can take on in the Lonely Shack. We're going to go straight back into Anchor Deep here now and progress the main game. So we're going to make our way to the next mini-boss, and we're going to fight our way through all of these hordes of regular enemies. The next mini-boss is known as Harborim, and this boss is quite simple as well. Now this boss does fire out a lot of projectiles, and it does spawn some ads too, and those ads can detonate on impact, so we have to be careful. Now I do have a hammer weapon here, which I wasn't too fond of, but this is the first time we fight Harborim, so the fight's fairly simple anyway. We now have enough aspiration to get cult level 4, so we can now access all of the lovely structures the game has to offer, bar a few that are unlocked later through special means. So Mars Matthews has died of old age, and we're going to miss Mars, but I'm sure Mars will be back in the near future. There's no such thing as real death in this game, unless you sacrifice him to the Red Demon, of course. So I'm now going to get the Loyalty Enforcer ritual here, and this we'll turn one of our cultists into a loyalty enforcer, so they'll just walk around for the duration of the day and focus on increasing the level of loyalty with all of the cult members, which is really handy. So the more loyalty enforcers we get, the better. I found a room here filled up with cauliflowers. It reminded me of a cozy farming game that I usually play, but I'm not going to say it in this video. I also found an NPC here by the name of Plimbo, and Plimbo is going to unlock a new location for us to visit, and that location is called the Smuggler's Sanctuary, and that location is filled up to the top with collectibles and secrets that we get to explore in just a few minutes. I'm just going to showcase this room. It's a room that you get when you're down in Anchor Deep, and it's just filled up to the top with explosive enemies that blow up in one hit. It's a great way to get the damage multiplier up on the Golden Fleece. Unfortunately, I took some damage before I made my way to this mini-boss, so I had to fight this boss with a 0 damage multiplier. So I had more commandment stones. It was time to get more powerful traits and more rituals. We're going to take the industrial trait. I was thinking about the faithful trait, but this one increases worker speed by 15% and it has no negatives, so that's a game changer right there. I'm also going to get Might of the Devout level 6. This is going to unlock the strongest tier of weapons for when we do our dungeon crawls. And I'm also going to get the Inspire trait as well. And this upgrades the Bless trait we have, so it just means that we can get the loyalty levels up on our followers that little bit easier. I went back to Anura today just to get some collectibles, but more importantly, I wanted to fight the Witness boss. We need to kill that boss to get another Eye of the Witness. We need 4 of those to give to Plimbo to get some Fleece tokens. This Witness was very similar to the first one. It just charges around the arena, it might throw some bombs at us, it might teleport away, summon some ads, rinse and repeat, and the fight was over in a jiffy. But we also get a new cult member as well, which is really nice, and we also picked up a new follower farm. So it was a good run, one step closer to 100%. I went back to our lovely cozy farm. It was time to unlock another ritual. We're going to get the Ritual of Enlightenment. Perform a ritual that will temporarily increase devotion generation speed at your shrine by 20% for 3 days. 20% might seem like a small amount, but when you have tons and tons of followers praying at your shrine, it helps big time to stock up on devotion to get those lovely upgrades. I decided to resurrect Sarcasm. I missed his funny shenanigans and it just wasn't the same without him on the farm. So welcome back to the cozy farm. We also had another follower death, so we're going to put them inside the fertilizer bin here, and they will help us grow crops for our much needed followers that are still alive. I also came across a room here. Now we're back in the Nura again because we got a quest to come here from a follower to rescue the follower's friend. And it's very important we do these quests. If we don't, we do lose a considerable amount of faith. I also picked up a new tarot card here because I found the room that Ratau was in that had just tons and tons of health. It even had little love hearts by the pool there all dancing around, and you can kill them as well if you want, and they drop more red hearts for you. So I wiped out a mini-boss today, collected some resources, got some more commandment stones. That means I can unlock more rituals. Now eventually we will come to a stage where all of the rituals do get unlocked, and we just don't get any more commandment stones. So we now are going to get some of the weapon masteries. We just get axe mastery there, and we can get a mastery for each weapon. It just makes the weapon stronger, makes the special attack on the weapon stronger as well. Because we have more commandment stones, we're now going to go into the work and worship tier again, and we're now on the very last branch. We're going to get the Holy Day Ritual, and this just means that everybody gets a day off, and it's a huge faith increaser. If your faith is down really low and you really need to get it back up, just perform that ritual. So I'm going to have a quick chat with Plimbo here. I have 2 Eyes of Witnesses at the moment, so he's going to give me back 2 fleece tokens there. I also ran into a little crab. I caught that crab in my net and I got rewarded with a tarot card. I also had a chat with the Red Demon as well, and he wanted more followers sacrificed. In returns, he would give me another fleece token, which was really nice. We're going to do that, no problem at all. So another fleece token in the bag for us from our lovely Red Devil friend. So I'm now going to get my followers to build a huge amount of offering statues. And every couple of days, those statues will be filled up with offerings that I can just loot. So it's a really nice passive resource maker. I'm also going to get the bribe follower trait here as well. It just means that I can bribe followers to get some more loyalty points on them. and it's only going to cost a few gold pieces, so it's a real nice trait to have. I'm going to go back into Anchor Deep today. I now have enough mini-bosses slayed where we can fight the main bishop boss, and the bishop in this dungeon is called Calamar. Calamar is actually quite harder than the first because her attack patterns confused me for a while, but eventually I just got used to her. She does kind of jump around an awful lot and she does fire out a lot of projectiles, but the projectiles are very well telegraphed, so once you know how to dodge the attacks, she becomes very simple. And I did have a 160% fleece on me, so my attacks did a lot more damage than what they normally do, so Calamar dropped in just a couple of hits. Once Calamar was defeated, I get another Heart of the Heretic. That means I can swap that in for another powerful passive ability. We now just have one bishop to go, and then we can fight the endgame boss. So we're actually getting through the challenge. Back in the base, I showed off the Heart of the Heretic to my lovely Cozy Tribe members, and they were super impressed at my progress. So we're going to go back to the church. We're now going to go into possessions, which is the final tier of traits that we can unlock. We're going to get the devotee trait here, which is really nice. It just gives us a little bit more bang for our buck when it comes to giving the sermons. We get a little bit more devotion out of our followers. I also got a new cutscene here, and this is because we have the DLCs installed. And what's going to happen here now is some cool cutscenes. This god, this red crown, is going to start talking to us, and it's going to tell us all about a new resource now that we have to gather to get 100% in this game, and that is called Sin. So we basically need to gather as much sin as possible to upgrade the temple. The temple has 10 upgradable levels, and every time we upgrade the temple, more and more sin is needed. So it's just basically for aesthetic purposes. Now you can also use sin for other game functions too. So for example, later on if you want your followers to mate and hatch eggs, have new babies, you need sin for that as well. So for the first ritual we had a choice between the Rite of Wrath and the Rite of Lust. I went with the Rite of Lust, and it's very funny actually. So your followers will perform a naked dance. You can then select one of those followers to receive the sin resource. Now we are going to need an absolute ton of sin to 100% this game, so this is just the first of many naked dances that I'm going to have to perform to conquer this game. And as we can see, we get a special animation there, and our follower will now puke out the sin. We will harvest it, and it's basically the same animation all the time. A follower wants to give you some sin. We also unlocked a new tier there for the temple, and as I said previously, we need sin for every temple upgrade. We also need gold bars, and those gold bars and that sin requirement dramatically increase every time you want to upgrade the temple to the next tier. But the upgrades are pretty cool. Sometimes it's just for aesthetic purposes, other times you get some really cool additions to your temple. Like eventually we're going to get this little money pod, and every time we have a sermon, followers will put money into the pod for us to collect. So it's just a really nice addition. So we're now back in Anchor Deep, and the reason why we've come here is to get more collectibles. We also want to fight the witness as well to get the third eye for Blimbo. Now I also got a weapon here called the Blunderbuss, and this is basically a gun, and it has a short to medium range on it. I also found the super rare room here with Manch inside it. It also had a tarot card inside it too called the Intangible, so I picked up the tarot card, but at this moment in time I still didn't know about the lore achievement, and I never clicked the action button behind the bonfire there, so it was just so unlucky. Finding that room again in the future is such a pain. It's such a rare route to come across, and countless upon countless dungeon runs will be performed in order for me to find that room again. It's time to fight Witness Astaroth, and this Witness is very similar to the previous ones, and we do have to watch out for the projectile attacks, but just like all of the other Witness fights, they teleport away, spawn in some ads, kill all the ads, the Witness will teleport back out, hit it a few times with the weapon, and away we go. A new follower added to our cult, and more importantly, an eye of the Witness that we can now give into Plimbo. Just one more eye to go. It was time to unlock another ritual, the Gluttony of Cannibals. Basically, it turns our cultists into cannibals. We have to select one unfortunate follower that will be eaten by all our cultists. Before we decide to do that ritual, I'm going to get all my followers high on mushrooms, and we are going to select a non-Gamergar member, so we're going to go with Witness Astaroth here, which is the newest member of our tribe. let's just cannibalize this person very quickly and get on with it. The great thing about this ritual though is that it guarantees us one sin every time we do this. There is no sin build-up, we basically just get one sin and that's it. It's also a great way to get rid of followers that you just don't want in the tribe. So now we can sacrifice them, ascend them, murder them, and we can now cannibalize them as well. So we've loads of ways now to get rid of followers that we don't want hanging around the place. We also unlocked the final dungeon, which is known as the Silk Cradle. I also came across this very interesting NPC, and she gave us the recipe for the tailoring shop. Every time we encounter this NPC, we can give her some gold bars, and she will give us a costume, an outfit. And in order to get 100% in this game, we will have to collect all of the outfits the game has to offer. And there's quite a number of outfits we have to collect. A lot of the outfits we can just buy from that NPC. Some we have to do some, special dialogue, or we have to do some special requests to get those outfits unlocked. It was then time to fight the first mini-boss of the Silk Cradle. The boss had two main abilities. It would launch projectiles and charge at us, and it would also web itself up to the ceiling, and then it would dash back down and try to hit us. But the dash is quite easy to dodge because you'd see the marker on the ground. I also came across a sign here as well, and this sign is going to point us in the direction of Midas's cave. And this is another location we can visit. It's going to have lots of collectibles and some really cool special events as well. I went straight back into Silk Cradle though to fight yet another mini-boss because I really wanted to progress the main game. And this mini-boss was absolutely simple. It was just a giant centipede. We had to watch out when the spikes came out of it, but, just a few hits and it was dead. This god then decided to pay me a visit, and its name was Question Mark. But we do get to give it a name later on that's actually quite funny. Basically, this god is telling us that we need to do our duties as the new divine god. We have to sort out the bishops that we've currently killed. We have to put their souls at peace. So basically, it just unlocks hard mode later on for us, where we have to go back in and do the 4 dungeons all over again, fight all the mini-bosses again, but they're just hardened versions of their originals. I also came across Shroomy. She's just another Knuck and Bows competitor, and we can play Shroomy later on. Back to Silk Cradle, we're fighting another mini-boss, and this mini-boss fires out a huge amount of projectiles, but this boss also has a pretty big dash attack, but it's easy enough to roll out of the way because once the mini-boss goes white, that's when you roll to dodge. I also unlocked the tailor building here as well, so all of those cool outfits that I've unlocked so far, I can use silk and other resources, and I can make those outfits no problem. What a nice surprise! Because I was cleaning up the poop, I was rewarded with the maid outfit. I'm also going to get Violent Extremist straight here as well. It just means that mini-bosses have a chance to drop sin, and that's going to be really helpful for us. So when I went into Midas's cave here, I came across an NPC called Midas, and Midas is basically all about gold and money. When I ran around his gold pile, I picked up a follower farm, which was pretty cool. If we come back here during the night time, we'll also find the red demon lurking around as well. I also noticed a snail statue, and this was the last statue I needed to submit a shell to, and I got another follower farm there, which is really nice. I went back to the Silk Cradle. It was time to fight the last main bishop boss, known as Shamara. So we were just a few boss fights away now before we get into the post game. Shamara, being the 4th bishop, is of course the hardest of the 4, but because we had all of our weapons fully upgraded, Shamara didn't pose too much of a challenge. Now Shamara has some, quick succession attacks, but it's very easy to just roll behind Shamara, hit him a few times, watch out for all of the bombs that he plants, watch out when he webs away and drops back down to the ground. Eventually, we got Shamara down no problem, and that is the 4th heart of the Heretic in the bag. But we're not finished with Silk Cradle just yet. We will have to come back and fight the Witness mini-boss as well to get the 4th eye of the Witness that we can give to Plimbo to finish off his quest chain. So once I went back to the farm, I showed all of my lovely followers the Heart of the Heretic. I'm also going to pick up the Blind Allegiance trait here as well. It just means when we start making babies that are on in the video, they will start with a high loyalty level. I found a room here where I had to exhume bodies, but as I was digging up corpses, I came across my first piece of lore, known as the Last Message 1. Now, if I want to get 100%, I'm going to have to pick up all of the lore. As we can see, there's quite a lot of lore to get. So I'm going to have to backtrack go back into these dungeons and do them over and over again. Look for all of the rooms with the question marks. I also need to find hidden statues within a lot of the rooms that will open up hidden paths to come across other pieces of lore. So it's a really hard achievement to do. It's a very grindy achievement, but it is necessary if we want to wipe this game out. So we're going to take on the last witness here. And this witness was actually pretty easy. Now it did have a lot of projectile attacks, but easy enough to roll through. That was the 4th eye of the witness in the bag. We can now go back to Plimbo and get our valuable fleece tokens. Because I was prioritizing the question mark rooms, I was coming across a lot more sites like that, so I was picking up a lot more lore. I was also getting some structural recipes, which are needed to get to 100%. Once I was finished with the run, it was time to take on the big bad boss of this whole game, and that is the one who waits. Now I had enough followers to summon me up into the realm that the one who waits resides in. Upon summoning, I had a selection of 3 weapons. There was 2 gauntlet weapons and there was a hammer. So I went with the gauntlet weapon of all the weapons that, could have presented themselves to me. After some dialogue options here, the one who waits wants me to sacrifice myself so that the one who waits becomes the big true god again. But I refused and I decided to take up my gauntlet and fight the good fight. So it's just a really cool scene here of myself sprouting some cool fire wings that you never see again for the rest of the game. And I had to fight the 2 followers first before I could take on the one who waits. The fight is actually pretty cool, but it's a very simple fight, especially if you know where the attacks are coming from. Ball is the first follower we get to fight, and what's really cool about Ball and Aeon, which is the other guy, is that we get to do a special quest for these guys post-game, and it really tidies up the game and it tidies up the lore, and it just puts everything in a really nice place when you finish up with the 100% achievements. So Am now is the next guy. Now we have to watch out for Am's projectile attacks, and I believe he actually gets me with one of the projectile attacks because I just didn't see him coming, and I wasn't fast enough to dodge them all. I should have dodged forwards instead of sideways and I probably would have been fine. But because I had a godly gauntlet, which was one of the best, if not the best gauntlet you can get in the game, I took down Am with just a few hits. It was now time to fight the one who waits. This is the first of 2 phases, and it's a simple enough phase. Basically, we just have to watch out for the projectile attacks, hit the god a few times, and happy days. We did have a godly weapon, which is the strongest weapon tier, so these fights aren't going to be too hard for us. Now when we get into the post game, the fights do become much more challenging. And despite the fact that we have the golden fleece and we do take double damage, these fights are still pretty easy. So once we finish off with the first phase, the one who waits will go down underneath the ground, where we will follow, and the second phase of the fight will begin. The dialogue is pretty cool, and the second phase of the fight, we just have to fight the eyeballs that come out of the one who waits. There's also a huge amount of projectile attacks that we need to dodge as well, and we have to be very careful here. Because we have the golden fleece, we do take double damage. That means we will die after a couple of hits. So this fight would be more of an endurance fight rather than a sprint. So we do have to kill all of those 3 eyes individually. But look, we have the godly gauntlet. It's simple enough. Now, once you learn all of the attack patterns, the fight becomes very enjoyable. Despite the fact that there's tons of projectiles flying around the place, once you get used to all of those attacks, you can just dodge them all no problem. And I know I get hit as I say that, but we fight this boss later on and it's much easier. Once the one who waits gets defeated, a follower pops out, and we can actually recruit this cute little follower to our tribe. And the great thing about this specific follower is that it has a very rare and unique trait, where this follower is immortal, and this follower, known as the one who waits, does not die, does not age. So it's just nice to have a follower that stays young all the time. We can get this one up to level 10, we can make this follower the disciple, and it just makes the game a little bit easier. I haven't come across any other followers so far that have that immortal trait, but you do get accessories later on where they can make your followers live forever. So technically speaking, you can have a big, huge, giant tribe where all of your followers live forever. It would just take a lot of grinding. You can also get a lot of food items later on too that make your followers young again. So that is the main game complete, but that is not the game finished. Oh no, we're just getting started. We're just getting warmed up here. Welcome to the post game of Cult of the Lamb. So that question mark god has now visited us yet again, and basically the god has given out to us here that we need to basically pick up our leftovers. So it's not good enough that we just destroy these bishops. We have to absolve these bishops of their sins. We have to make peace with these bishops. We have to restore the order of the world. All of the usual story. So this god is going to task us now with going back into the dungeons again and do them all over again on hard mode. I did pick up a really good relic here though, called the Transmogricon, and I got that from killing a bird. I wasn't expecting it, so it was nice when it happened. It was just a nice surprise. So I'm now going back into Darkwood. Here we go all over again, but this time I'm looking out for the lore rooms. So I just hit a statue there and it unlocked a secret passage to this room here, and I had to make an offering of a heart. But when I make this offering, I will get a piece of lore. And I can do this, I think, up to 10 times, and then I have to go to other places to get other pieces of lore. So it is a really big grind to kind of get this room 10 times, and it does take me quite some time. I'm not going to show you every single time I get this room. All I'm going to say is that it was painful. But I do get there in the end. I then came across Midas, and what happened here is that he bumped into me. He took my gun and he just runs off. And this happens every time I go into one of the designated dungeons, whether it be Darkwood, Anchor Deep or Silk Cradle, we'll come across Midas. Eventually though, we get some sweet revenge. So I'm now fighting the mini bosses all over again, but these are hardened versions. As we can see, they spawn a lot more ads, they fire out a lot more projectiles, they have a lot more HP, but we're able for it no problem. What we're getting here now is a new resource called a God's Tear. And we need God's Tears to give to that question mark god in order to get tons of collectibles. So we're going to have to stock up on lots of God Tears. I do get to name the question mark god, and we're going to name the god Penelope Bridgerton, because I just watched the 3rd season of Bridgerton and it was absolutely amazing. So dearest reader, let's continue. I just had one God Tear at the moment. Every time we give over the God Tier, we will get a wheel that will have 5 potential prizes on it, and those prizes range from special commandment stones, and we can use these to unlock traits that we missed initially. So we can now use these commandment stones to unlock all of the other rituals and traits that we didn't choose over the ones that we did. So we can now have basically every ritual and trait in the game. But that's going to be a serious grind right there, and we have to do that to get 100% on this game. We have to unlock all of the rituals, all of the traits. So the grind is on. So we're back now in Darkwood again, going through the mini bosses. That was simple enough, but in all fairness, I had a 495% golden fleece damage multiplier. I also picked up the last power up here, which was Kudai's Blessing. That's all of the power ups now gotten. So going forward, if I do a sermon, I don't get devotion anymore. Instead, I'll just get more points into their loyalty levels, which is really nice because I need a total of 12 disciples to get another achievement. I also have to get a lot more of these advanced commandment stones now to get all of the traits that I missed. It's such a grind, but you know what? We get there eventually. And I mean, the grind wasn't that bad because the game is quite fun. And there was enough post-game material to keep me interested. I also went back to Plimbo. And guess what? He wants me to get the Force Fleece tokens all over again, so we have to fight the witnesses on hard mode. I also took on Flinky and I got a tarot card for beating her the first time. We can't take her on again, but we just get money. I also took on Klingo and Bop as well, and I beat him and I got a tarot card. And I also took on the other NPC that we found in Silk Cradle as well. Her name is Shroomy. And she gives us the final tarot card as well that we need from playing the Knucklebone game. Because I've beaten all of the NPCs now and Knucklebones, I get the Knucklebones arena. This thing is absolutely amazing. You can only make one arena, you can have that on your farm, but you can take on your followers and Knucklebones. And if you win, your follower gets a massive loyalty bonus. I also had to go back to Midas's lair here, and I had to sacrifice followers so that they become gold statues, and I had to do this so Midas would give me fleece tokens. So it had to be done, but I just sacrificed followers that just kind of blew it out of the wind. They were all non-member GamerGar followers. After sacrificing 2 or 3 followers, I get all the fleece tokens I can get from Midas. I also made a huge amount of lumber camps and stone mining camps because I was lacking wood and stone like big time. So I figured that if I just made lots of these camps and if I sold loads of fish for money, I'd be able to make all of the endgame structures no problem. I needed to make a lot of structures to get a lot of achievements, to get a lot of outfits or tarot cards or things like that. So doing all this now just means less time on the grind later on. I was giving Penelope Bridgerton more god tiers, and she was giving me relics that I needed to get 100%. She will also give me follower forms, lease tokens, advanced commandment stones, so basically it's just a huge grind. We're back to Darkwood though. We're fighting another mini-boss here on hard mode, and I mean, despite the fact that it is hard mode, the fight is still fairly simple, and because I fought these bosses before, I was somewhat familiar with their attack patterns, and that was one more god tier in the bag. We then get to fight the hardened version of Leshy, and it was more or less the same as the original version, except there was a lot of spikes on the ground we had to watch out for. Leshy had more HP, Leshy moved around a lot faster, the ads were a lot more aggressive, Leshy spawned a lot more ads, but we had a big bad hammer. After a few strikes, Leshy was defeated, but this was the big surprise upon defeating Leshy this time. A follower pops out, Leshy himself, and we now get to recruit Leshy to our tribe. And we get to do this with all the bishops. And what's going to happen now is that all of these bishops will give us quests, and we have to complete those quests to get even more relics and to get more game completion done. So it just goes on and on. But eventually, I know I've said it 100 times, but I'll say it again, we get there. So I went to Midas's cave here now at night, and the red demon wanted Ratau, and I couldn't spare Ratau. I did deny the request twice, hoping that there'd be some alternative outcome. There wasn't. I had to give in Ratau to get the final fleece token. The red demon was absolutely delighted, but not only will I get the final fleece token off the red demon, I also get a follower form. So if I want to make a cult of Ratau's, I could do so no problem at all. So that was the red demon side quest done with, and now I'm back to Midas's lair, and I sacrifice some more followers here to the gold to get the rest of the fleece tokens from Midas, and that would have fully completed Midas's questline there as well. And all of these followers that I do sacrifice are just random followers that we get from quests, or random followers that we meet out when we do our crusades, when we do our dungeon crawls. So it's not the end of the world for the Game of Car followers. So I managed to make a missionary building here, and we can use this building to send followers on quests. And if our followers have very high levels, they will have very successful results for us if we wanted to get stone or lumber, or if we wanted to seek out followers, etc. The offering statues were coming in real handy. Every day or two I would check these statues, and I get back lots of fish and gold and wood and even some processed goods such as planks and gold ingots. It was now time to upgrade our temple yet again, because we were accumulating sin by doing our rituals, etc. So we're getting over the temple upgrades. I now decided to go into Anura, and this is the hardened versions, but we had to sacrifice a follower to get in here, so I decided to sacrifice one of the witnesses that I recently got. Don't worry, my newly acquired witness follower, your sacrifice will not be in vain. Thanks to you, we can now access the hardened versions of Anura. I made a ton of 3-star meals here for my followers, just to get the hunger gauges back up, because I wanted to spam these dungeons over and over again just to get through all of the content, but I needed to make sure my followers were fed, that my followers were happy. So this is just the hardened versions of another mini-boss. I did have a 355% damage multiplier, so it was simple enough to do. I also unlocked a ton of really cool tarot cards here as well, so I now have 51 out of 61 tarot cards unlocked, just 10 more tarot cards to go to get all of the tarot cards the game has to offer. And a lot of those tarot cards will be gotten from our lovely Penelope Bridgerton by giving in god tiers. I also unlocked a ton of relics as well, and the reason why I was able to unlock all of these is because I had accumulated so much divine inspiration. I also gave Sozo here more mushrooms, and he gave me a really cool recipe that I could make, and I would have to make that recipe if I wanted to progress the Sozo questline, which has to be done if we want to get all the achievements the game has to offer. I also went back to Midas's cave, and I donated some gold here to the well, and hopefully after a few days I'll get back a lot more than what I put in. I tried to see if I could sacrifice more followers there to get more fleece tokens, but I couldn't. The option was now gone. So it was back into Anura. It was time to fight another mini-boss. This time it was Eligos, but it was a hardened version, so Eligos was just faster, more aggressive, summoned a lot more adds and attacked a lot more frequently, but not to worry, the fight was still simple enough to do, and I had a pretty good damage multiplier, and I also had a very nice weapon as well. I had the blunderbuss, which was a nice gun. So once that boss was dead, we got another god tier, and I came across a room here with Raksasha inside. And Raksasha is basically a vendor you can encounter outside of dungeons that can sell you lots of food. But this was the first time I encountered Raksasha's room, and if you beat up the big giant snail enough times, you will anger Raksasha, which is actually very funny. But if you beat Raksasha in a fight, you will get a really cool recipe called the Monster Shrine. And if we build this Monster Shrine and pray at the shrine at night time, we will get a really cool follower farm. So it's just one of many secrets that the game has. So we have finally unlocked the boss room to fight another bishop, and this is the hardened version of Hecat. And it's quite similar to the first time we fought Hecat, but Hecat is just a lot more aggressive, similar to Leshy, a lot more HP, will attack us a lot more often. But once we do destroy Hecat, we will get to recruit Hecat to our lovely cozy tribe, and this will unlock even more quests for us. Basically, every time we recruit one of these bishops to the tribe, they will give us a quest to go and find their relic. We'll then get continued quests where we can empower those relics, make them even stronger, and that's how we get all the relics in the game. So this is something we have to do to 100% the game. Now, I got some bonus structures here. I got a mating tent, which is very interesting indeed. We can now get our followers to mate together, and they will lay eggs, and we can hatch those eggs into baby followers, which is really cool. So we also have the hatchery there and the nursery, and the nursery is very cool because basically we can put the babies into the nursery. Someone has yet again laid a giant poop on the farm, and the babies have not yet arrived, so whoever you are, please get yourself checked out. I'm worried for you, truly. So this time we're going back into Anchor Deep, and we're fighting the first mini-boss of this dungeon. Once that mini-boss has been destroyed, we get another god tier, which is nice. I also took on the One Who Waits at a game of Knucklebones. Victory allowed me to progress to One Who Waits from level 8 to level 9. So we're really getting there in terms of loyalty. I also built some drums here as well, and this is a great way to max out a follower's sin level. So as we can see, I just had to push some buttons on my controller, similar to one of those dancing games or, guitar games. And we get to use that powerful function every single day, so it's just a great way to get even more sin. It was back to Penelope Bridgerton, and this time we unlocked the Reaching Tree Tarot card, followed by some really cool follower farms as well from handing in those god tiers. I decided to get the ritualistic fight pit, and basically I can have my followers pair off against each other. Bugaboo versus the One Who Waits. Bugaboo was victorious. I can decide though if the one who lost gets killed or if I should spare them. I decided this time to spare them because they were disciples fighting, and I really needed to stock up on disciples because I needed 12 in total to get that disciples achievement, and I just only had 5 or 6 at the moment, so I had a long way to go. I went back to Midas's place, and I managed to donate more money to the well here because the first time it gave me back a lot more than what I put in, so I just thought it was a good gold investment. Confess all of your sins to me, my lovely followers. Vice City taught me his deepest, darkest secrets. As a result, he got a huge increase in his follower level, and all I had to do is give him some gold to get him up to level 10. This means Vice City could now become a disciple of the Gamergar Stars. I also took on Glitter Sparks in some Knucklebones. Victory was mine, of course, and I managed to get Glitter Sparks up to level 10 as well. That means when the ritual cooldown of disciples is off, I can have Glitter Sparks also become a disciple, which was really nice. We're now making some pretty fast progress going through the main dungeons. We are now fighting Calamar yet again, but this is the hardened version, and Calamar is just a little bit faster than what she was in the original version. Now I do have a 600% axe that I get to swing around here all the time. I did take some damage there, and Calamar does unleash a crazy amount of projectiles, but honestly I just decided to just drop the fence and just keep hacking away with the axe, and I got her down eventually. So much for my 600% damage multiplier. But we now get to recruit Calamar to the tribe, which is really nice, so it's one more follower now that we get. I also decided to make Vice City Disciple because Vice City was now level 10 and I needed 12 disciples in total. The more of those lovely golden circles that I see, the better. And all I had to do now was just to wait for that ritual to come back off cooldown and I could make another person a disciple then. I also prayed at the monster shrine, got a new follower form, and I came across an NPC here and I thought for a split second it was Ratau, but it was his brother Ratu, and he gave me a challenge. If I could make it through a few combat floors unscathed, I would get a tarot card, and I got the consecrated oil there, which was really nice. Relics charged a little bit faster. It was then time to go straight down into the Silk Cradle, and we are going to fight the hardened versions of the mini-bosses down here. We do get God tiers for victory, which is really nice. The next day, I decided to make Glitter Sparks a disciple, and this will continue until we have 12 in total and we get that lovely achievement. So just take it from here that eventually we do get 12 disciples. I upgraded our brewery so I can now make a total of 6 drinks. I was able to make 3-star drinks no problem at all because I had so much grapes and hops and everything in between collected from doing countless dungeon runs. I then built Sozo's shrine and was then back to Silk Cradle to progress the main game yet again. It was going to be fighting the hardened versions of a boss, but first I wanted to talk to Sozo and get a fleece token. Once the fleece token had been obtained, it was time to fight Horus the second. Now Horus was much harder than that of the original. He had a lot more projectile attacks, he spawned adds out faster, those adds fired addition projectiles, so basically it was just a huge fight of me dodging as much projectiles as I could and doing as much damage as I could on Horus the second. Horus does eventually go down and that is another god tier in the bag, but we don't stop here. I want to progress the main dungeons as quickly as I can just so we can get all of those followers added to the farm so I can do all their quests to get the last few relics that I needed. Once the god tier was obtained, Midas assaulted me yet again, but this time he didn't run away, he just stood there and I was able to absolutely annihilate him with my 265% damage multiplier blunderbuss. It was so nice to just hit him over and over again. After a while I couldn't do any further damage, so I left and took on the next mini-boss Silk Cradle had to offer, and it was just a giant centipede there. Now this centipede I found was much harder because it spawned a lot more adds and it also had a lot more HP, but just like all of the previous bosses, it went down no problem at all. I then got the Sinner's Pride ritual. Then basically we can choose a sinner here to take on all of the sin of everyone else, and you can get up to 3 sins from that NPC, but there's also a great chance your NPC will dissent against you and they will actually leave the cult. Now Elizabeth wasn't too impressed that I chose her, you know, to be the conduit of this ritual, and she actually left the tribe. But we do get her back after a couple of scraps, of course. I decided to mate our very own Discord moderator Bugaboo with the one who waits. We had the powerful trait of the Royal Pooper, and we also had the lustful trait that the one who waits had. That means all of their future babies will be Royal Poopers and they'll be lustful, so it'll be no problem mating those with other people of the cult, once they're mature of course. So once I get my very first egg, I can put that into the hatchery here, and I just have to attend that once every few days, and eventually that egg will hatch and we can throw the baby into the nursery where someone from the cult will raise that baby up to be a super loyal follower for us. It was then time to go back into Silk Cradle. We were going to fight the hardened version of Shamara. Now we did have a 405% damage multiplier, so a few strikes was all it took to take Shimera out, and I did have the blunderbuss as well, so I just had to charge it up a few times, hit Shimera with it, and the deed was done. We now had Shimera added to our lovely cozy cult. That was now all 4 bishops added to the cult, so we had Leshy, Hecate, Calamar, and now we had Shamara. The only thing now is that we have to do all of these bishop quests. So there's 4 quests in total where these bishops will get us to go back into their represented dungeons, find their relics, then we have to go back in again, power up the relics, and that's basically all of the bishop quests done. We had to do this to collect all of the relics, and I had 50 out of 57 relics, so we were very close to getting 100%. So that was the relic there of Leshy. But I also had to go back to these dungeons anyway and fight the hardened versions of these witnesses. I had to do this 4 times to get 4 more eyes that we can give to Plimpo so we can get more fleece tokens. We have to get all the fleece tokens to unlock all the fleeces if we want to get 100% of this game. So we're now reaching the stage where I'm just farming the witnesses one after the next. I'm going back into the dungeons, doing the bishop quests to get their artifacts as well. And this is just rinse and repeating. Once all this is done, there's just a small handful of achievements left for us to get to fully conquer this game. Now the witnesses were actually very hard. They spawned a lot of ads, they shot a lot of projectiles, so I didn't need to concentrate to fight them, but we were getting there. We just had 1 witness to go. It was time to advance Leshy's quest. We had to turn him into a demon and take him back to his temple in Darkwood so we could empower his relic. But first, our very first egg hatched. And we had to give this baby a name, Super Sergi. And Super Sergi is our latest YouTube channel member. So welcome to the GamerGar members, Super Sergi. And just for anyone else that's made it this far in the video, if you do subscribe and if you do become a channel member, I will incorporate you into future videos in one way or another. You could be an NPC, a cultist, an animal. God only knows, depends what game we play. But I do try to incorporate all of my channel members into as many of my channel runs as possible. Leshy was very happy I brought him back to his temple in Darkwood. As a reward, he powered up the relic that I originally got. So it was now called the Cleansed Eye of Leshy, and it just means that its effect is slightly more elevated than that of its original effect. So every time I get that relic now, if I'm doing a dungeon run, it'll be empowered. Now, when Shamrock joined my tribe, he was, very bold, and he was telling people terrible things about me. So I had to lock him up in prison for a while, but he was fine now after that. Sometimes you just have to lock people up for a few days to teach them a lesson. I got Calamar's ear inside Anchor Deep, and the trend continues. I also went to fight the witness inside Anchor Deep as well, and I had to wipe that witness out to get another Eye of the Witness to give to Plimbo, which will get us 1 step closer to 100%. I did have my blunderbuss, but I took damage a few times. I didn't have the damage output I wanted to kill him in a few hits, so the fight dragged on for a little bit. But eventually we got the win. I also picked up some sin as well from killing that mini-boss, which is really nice, and I got another Eye of the Witness. I also picked up Hecate's throat as well inside Anura. That was a quest I got from Hecate to go in and get that. I also got a quest from Shamura to visit his dungeon to get the Shamura's skull, which is another relic. So we now had almost all of the relics got in the game, which was great. Because I wasn't still cradled to get Shamura's skull, I decided to stop by and pay our lovely witness friend a visit. I just needed to get 1 more witness's eye, and that would be all 4 of the hardened versions of the witness eyes done. So that would be the Plimbo quest chain fully completed. I also picked up some sin from wiping out that boss, which was really nice. It was time now to select a follower to be sacrificed. And the reason why I needed to cannibalize this follower is because I needed more sin to upgrade the temple. Because I was very close to upgrading the temple to level 10, I needed huge amounts of sin to get the deed done. I also decided to have my wife Pantox mate with the one who waits to make another egg. I needed to hatch a total of 5 eggs to complete another achievement. I also got Super Sergi because now he was fully mature, along with Natasha, to make another baby. And I also wanted to extend the line of the royal poopers, and Super Sergi had that trait. The more royal poopers we had, the better. I also got Sarcasm to mate with Mars Matthews to make another egg. So we now had 3 eggs on the go, and after a few days, they would hatch up into lovely, loyal followers. I also visited Plimbo, and I gave him all of the eyes that I got from fighting those mini-bosses. There was 4 in total, so I was going to get back 4 more fleece tokens there, which was really nice. Afterwards, I went back to Sozo to see if there was anything more I could do to continue his questline, and I picked up a mushroom here, a very weird mushroom called the Seed of Sozo. So I decided to go back and plant that in the farm eventually. Now, I wasn't finished yet here. I needed to find all of these lore pieces. Eventually I found a room with lots and lots of meat, and when I destroyed all the meat I got a piece of lore. I also done the quest here with Calamar as well. I had to turn her into a demon, bring her back to her temple in Anchor Deep to get an empowered version of her relic called the Cleansed Calamar's Ear. I also acquired the drink tender vest from making tons of drinks here at the bar, so I could get more sin out of my followers. So that was another outfit got. I now had to do what are called purgatory runs, and I decided to focus on the Golden Fleece Gauntlet. Now this was the third gauntlet with the Golden Fleece. You had to do this a total of 6 times to complete a row in purgatory, and that would unlock another achievement. Every time I do a row, the gauntlet becomes bigger and bigger and it becomes harder. So this was row number 3 and it goes up to number 6. When you get to row number 6, you end up fighting the one who waits. So you end up fighting the final boss again. So it was just another grind to go through these gauntlets over and over again. The good thing about this was I was picking up tons of god tiers along with god tier fragments. And if you meshed enough fragments together, you would get even more god tiers. So I got 2 god tiers from that run, which was nice. That means more follower farms from our lovely Penelope Bridgerton, along with tarot cards as well, and we needed all these for perfection. So it all just kind of ties into each other. I also upgraded our temple yet again to rank number 6. Now I do skip an awful lot of rank upgrades because the game eventually turns into this big grind fest of me, allowing my followers to commit sin, upgrade the temple over and over again. So, I do cut out a lot of content, but it's just rinse and repeat really for the most of it. I also brought Shimura back to their temple as well, so I was able to get an empowered artifact that was called a cleansed Shamura's skull. So we're almost there with all of the bishop quests. I think it's just Heket that's left. Every time I come across this Beirut vendor, I always purchase an outfit. Because you have to purchase all of the outfits from this vendor and then find the rest of them to unlock the achievement where you've acquired all of the outfits. I've finally done enough purgatory runs now where I've unlocked the 6th tier. The final boss of the 6th tier is of course the one who waits. And this fight mechanic is more or less the exact same as the previous fight mechanic where you have the 3 phases. First you fight his followers, then you fight the one who waits up top, and then you go below and you have to fight his eyeballs. 3 eyeballs in total, avoid all the projectiles. Eventually we get to destroy all of the eyeballs and we get to wipe out the one who waits. And that will finish off then the purgatory row. Now, there's still a lot more rows we can do in purgatory, but thankfully we only had to complete 1 row and not all of the rows. Praise be to Yevon. We did not have to complete all of the rows. If that was the case, I'd probably still be doing the content right now. You wouldn't have this glorious video to watch. It was back to Penelope Bridgerton with even more god tiers, and we were also acquiring more outfits as well, and we were upgrading our temple using Sin. As we can see, we're very close now to level 10 on the temple. I also got some more tarot cards here. I got one here inside the room that Helop was in. So we just needed literally a small handful of tarot cards now to complete the collection, and those cards can be got from Penelope Bridgerton. I was also unlocking more rituals and more traits by giving it more advanced commandment stones. This one is the Sacral Architecture trait, and it just means if we create a new building, we get some faith, which is really nice. So it's just rinse and repeat until all of the achievements have been gotten. I also got some more lore here. This is Ancient Tablet number 10. I did have to find this room a total of 10 times to get that tablet. I also got a follower farm as well, because I found this room 10 times, and that took a lot of dungeon runs. I also got the wedding suit, and I also get the wedding dress as well, because I got married so many times. So I had to do the wedding ritual, I think at least 3 times, for those outfits to drop. I also got my followers to fight each other, but this time it was to the death, and I picked up another outfit, known as the Warrior's Surus. So we're almost there with the outfits, just a few more to go, which was really nice. I finally had enough sin generated to complete the temple. We now had Icon X, which was icon number 10, and that is going to be the final aesthetic touch to this lovely looking temple. That was one more achievement in the bag for us. The temple was now fully completed. After giving lots of god tiers to Penelope Bridgerton, she gave me special necklaces that I could equip on followers, and if those followers are sacrificed, I would get special followers in return. Now this only works on 2 occasions, so I had a necklace of light and a necklace of dark. I put those on 2 random followers, sacrificed them, and look what I get back. I get back the followers that were following the one who waits, and now I get to add them to my cult. But you also unlock a special quest with those followers as well, and to be honest, I never would have figured out this quest because I had to go to Google to find out what the hidden achievement was, and I learned all about this. So Because of Reddit, I probably never would have figured this out, but I needed this achievement to 100% the game. So I had ball and I had aim. I also had to put this sozo seed that I got into the ground, and I put some fertilizer on it as well, and that's going to grow into an actual sozo NPC, which unlocks a really funny quest line. I also made loads of bowls of poop, and I got awarded a follower farm here, so if I want to make loads of followers that look like poop, I could absolutely do that. After about a day, that seed actually hatched, and look who it was. It was a younger version of Sozo, and all this NPC wanted off of me was mushrooms. And that was it. Just tons and tons of mushrooms. But it goes a step further. This Sozo tells me that his followers are in Anura and they need to be rescued. So I accepted the request. I will go to Anura eventually and I will try to rescue these followers. And these followers are basically giant mushrooms. So as we can see here, I wiped out all the enemies, rescued a follower. Let's go back to the base now and see what happens. So what's happening now is Sozo is eating these followers. And every time I go and rescue a follower, Sozo will eat that follower. And that quest will basically go round and round again. It's infinite until you decline the request. Now I didn't know at the time, so when it happened the second time, I decided to accept the request, go back to Anura, and I thought this time surely if I rescue another mushroom follower, Sozo won't eat this one, he'll leave it alone and we can live happily. Unfortunately, Sozo ate that follower, and the third time around when Sozo gave me the request again to go back into Anura to get another mushroom up, I said no. Sozo had a bit of a stroke. I put Sozo in prison because he started to dissent against me, and it's going to take a day or two now to re-educate Sozo, get him off the mushrooms, get him back to the realm of normality. So we will come back to Sozo in just a few minutes. For now, it was back to Penelope Bridgeton, and we were getting even more structural recipes that was really cool from those god tiers. I then had to convert Ball and Aim into demons, so I needed the second tier of the demonic summoning circle to do this. I then had to go into one of the 4 dungeons, didn't matter which one, and I had to find the room with the cat lady. And I reunited Ball and Aim with the cat lady. As a result, I got back 2 relics. 1 relic for each of the followers you return. Now you don't get these followers back, but that's alright. Just to see how happy they were was a good enough outcome for me. So, the cat lady, for the first relic, she gives us the blessed tears of the vengeful father, and then we get the damned tears of the merciful mother. Now this puts our relic collection on 56 out of 57. I also finally find Mantran's room again, and I kid you not, if you look at my day counter, I'm on day 147, it took a lot of dungeon runs. For me to finally find this room. Every time I went into a question mark room, it just would not give me that room. It was a super rare room. So in order to get another achievement, I had to destroy 3 hatched eggs. This gives me the chef's jacket, and that was the last outfit I needed to unlock all of the outfits in the game. And because I completed all of the 4 bishops quests, the one who waits brings me up to the little summoning circle here, and he basically tells me that I've done an adequate job, and he will give me the final relic then that basically gives me 100% on this game. So I had all of the follower farms, all of the outfits, all of the tarot cards, I had all of the structures, I had all of the commandments unlocked. I had basically everything that the game could give me. I also had Sozo fully regenerated, because when he came out of prison, he wasn't, the evil person he used to be, so he didn't crave mushrooms anymore, he didn't want to eat his mushroom followers. So everything worked out in the end. So this was an absolutely magnificent journey to get 100%. It did become a serious grind at the end, when I had to go through all those gauntlets and all those purgatories to get all those achievements, but it was so much fun. So for those of you who have stayed and watched this video, I greatly appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more GamerGuard content. This is just a quick drop down of all of the achievements I have gotten, including all of the DLC achievements. So that is true completion of Cult of the Lamb. Thanks again for watching, everyone. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to check out my other 100-day videos. If you enjoyed this one, you'll definitely enjoy the others. Bye for now, and have a great day. Huge shout out to all my channel members. Thanks so much for supporting me so far, everyone. I'll see you very shortly in our next 100-day challenge.